we owe our freedom to those dedicated people. May you grant us the strength and the perseverance as we struggle against the evilness in this world. Help us to be strong as you have commanded us to do so. For it is these things in your name we ask. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of the business agenda. We would need a motion. Someone's ready to do so if there are no conflicts amongst any of the members.
Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we adopt the business agenda as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Farabee. Do we have a second to his motion?
Second.
Have a second by Councilman Smith. Is there any more discussion on the matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The agenda would be approved as it is presented. I think the clerk said we have not had anyone to sign up for unscheduled public comment, so we will move on to item 5, which is the approval of 2 sets of city council minutes. First one being September 13th, special meeting, then September 19th for the regular meeting. If someone's ready to make a motion, we'll entertain it.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the September 13, 2023 special city council meeting and September 19, 2023 regular city council meeting minutes as drafted.
All right, we have a motion by Councilwoman Bryant. Do we have a second to her motion?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Farabee. Is there any more discussion on the motion? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The minutes will be approved as they are presented. Item 6 is the public hearing. I call on our planning director, David Wise, to make a presentation.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. I do have one thing I want to add here before he gets started, and I'm not trying to take away from the presentation you're about to receive, but just in a traditional sense, when we've talked about rezoning, we've talked about you cannot rezone based on a particular land use, but now we can under 160D. So this is going to sound a little bit different because the requested zoning district is the B4, but it's to enable a specific site, which is enclosed in your packet for the particular use. In prior years, what we have done is had a rezoning and then like a special use permit process simultaneously. So really this is merged these two efforts. So with it being our first one, we just handle this like a typical rezoning, but all you're approving or would be considering is the zoning district that would allow the specific use that is being presented. And if there were any other changes, any substantial changes, if approved, it would have to come back through the board for that. So just wanted to give you a little heads up on that if you're, as he goes into it.
Anybody have a question before we move forward? Mr. Wise?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and members of the public. Before you this evening, as Manager Tram has illustrated to you verbally, we have a rezoning request using the conditional zoning district approach, which has never been utilized in Roanoke Rapids prior to these two applicants' rezoning requests. The planning board held a public meeting on Thursday, September 21st, and made recommendation for approval with no conditions. Our process under the B4 zoning district, city council is only looking at one permissible use for the subject property. In the past, council would have to have considered all permissible uses. Under the B4 zoning district, finally, both council and applicant can negotiate any site-specific conditions that would have to be mutually agreed upon. I will make the initial presentation, and Mr. Wethington will be available to speak and answer any questions the council may have following by any members of the public who may wish to speak in support or opposition of the rezoning petition. Oh, I'm going too far. So, sorry, I'm going to backtrack. So what is a conditional zoning district? This is the section from our land use ordinance on page 83 and 84. And as Manager Traham gave you a brief overlay, this is in our land use ordinance, so I'm not going to go over it since it's already been well explained this evening. So pictured here is our subject property and a quick summary highlight. It's 17.84 acres with 60 plus or minus feet of West Betcher feet roadway frontage. The proposal is indoor and out and climate controlled storage. The applicant is Terry Weatherington from Ample Storage, and the property owner is MK Properties LLC. In the present use, it's undeveloped land, trees, and shrubs. And the proposed use, again, is indoor climate controlled storage units and non-climate controlled storage units on site. Illustrated here is the current zoning designation in brown. It's an R3 residential. The proposed rezoning is the purple titled B4 CD, which means conditional district with the year 2023, and storage is its title. So that's how that would be registered if the petition is approved. Staff believe this designation for a B4 is illogical since there's a lot of B4 in the immediate vicinity and surrounding the residential 3 zoning district. So pictured here is the project layout. Even though it states preliminary, the final site plans are identical. I will let Mr. Weatherington speak to the project specifics and to answer any questions at the conclusion of my presentation. The requested use aligns with our comprehensive plan as shown here. The recommendation for consistency is supports infill development. 1.7 provides effective buffering and or landscaping where commercial development adjoins existing or planned residential uses. 1.18 utilizes the mixed use areas as a tool to aid in regulating, reducing strip commercialization, stimulate compact development, encourage infill development, reduce strip generation, provide flexible development options, and utilize existing infrastructure. 1.20 encourage developers to use thoroughfares and natural topography features to define the boundaries of a neighborhood and to concentrate higher uses at the outer edges of the boundaries of the neighborhood. 1.32 protect, enhance, and encourage a high quality of life, image, and cultural amenities as an effective approach to effective economic development. And lastly, 1.33 is economic development efforts should encourage the revitalization and reuse of currently unused or underutilized structures, sites, and infrastructures in appropriately located areas. The requested staff recommends in favor of the proposed rezoning to a B4 conditional zoning district map amendment request, and I'll let Mr. Weatherington come back and describe his site plan to you, and if you have any questions, he'll be more than happy to answer them. And do you have any questions of me before I sit down? Okay.
So it'd be appropriate at this time for Mr. Weatherington to come forward? Okay. Mr. Weatherington?
But excuse me, Mr. Mayor, if you would please just open the public hearing now at this time.
So at this time, I would declare that the public hearing be open. You can come forward, Mr. Weatherington. If you would, just again, state your name and your reason for being here.
I'm Terry Weatherington. I'm with Ample Storage, and thank you for your time tonight. We are located out of Smithfield, North Carolina. We operate in 4 states, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and some in Florida, mostly in North Carolina. We have 89 facilities. We've been in business for 40 years, and storage is all we do. One of our newest facilities is our facility on 10th Street. It's our new design, and it is full. Roanoke Rapids has been good to us. it's time now for us to grow. And this facility that we're talking about tonight would be an annex to our existing facility. Our existing facility is up on 10th Street, right across the railroad track from this property. It will not have an office, a leasing office. Our leases will be written from the 10th Street office, and then they'll carry the tenants around and show them their units. This is going to minimize the traffic on that dead-end street, Becker. Plus, our biggest concern we saw was the assisted living facility, the senior living facility right across Becker from where we're going, which is one of the reasons I filed conditional zoning. I realized that I had the residential properties along Georgia Avenue in the back, the assisted living facility that would be most affected by it. And by me sending conditionally a development plan and my particular use, it allowed me to give them the assurances they need to know what's going next to and behind them on that. I have been able to meet with a majority of the landowners on Georgia and with the manager of the assisted living facility, Rivertown Manor Senior Living. I think,
Correct.
and I don't hear well.
So Rivertown Manor supported the project with a letter that was presented to the planning board, and our office has not received any opposition to it, whether in person, phone, email, or mail. So,
But I spent a tremendous amount of time reviewing it with the people there at Rivertown Manor and with all of the landowners residential landowners that I could meet with. I think there were a total of 2 lots that I did not meet, but they were sent copies of this development plan and a letter explaining what we're intending on doing and my contact information. And I received no contact from them. Our facilities, one more thing about the neighbors. If you'll look at the top, and if you need, I have larger plans that you can actually read that I can share with you if you want them. Does anybody want a larger plan?
I'll take one.
Yes, sir.
Not that I need it, but
Does everybody on the council know where Mr. Wethington is speaking about, where the property is located? Everybody know where it is?
it said right behind the current one that he had. Ample. Is that what
It's
you
kind
just
of
said?
right behind it, but
yeah,
Becker Drive, on Social Security.
It's a big site. 8.5 by 11 doesn't do it justice.
I would say access to the site right now would currently be through West Becker Drive.
If you look at your drawing, this area up here is an 80-foot wooded buffer, which is much more than we are required by plan. The 80-foot extends all the way down, 100-foot to Ms. Bird's property, and then this area right here will remain wooded. When I talked to all the neighbors, that was one of their concerns. They preferred to have natural vegetation, that wood's behind them. And we don't need all the acreage. So, I mean, that's what we do when we come into a town. We try to accommodate all the neighbors. Their other concern was the drainage in that whole property. If you're familiar with it, the building supply store is located up here and a car lot right beside it, all paved. And that water runs down here and the topography carries it right on across in this direction. And they're having a tremendous amount of problem with drainage there. You'll notice my detention pond is much larger than you would imagine for that size facility. 2 reasons: I need to fill dirt, and it gives them an even further buffer between their residential properties and my nearest building, which is here. The facility is completely fenced, built in a fortress style. These 3 buildings, this building, this building, this building, and this slab will be phase 1. When that gets full, we'll build that building. When that gets full, we're gonna build these 3 buildings. There will be grass right now. That's our final phase on that property. And conditionally, I mean, when we submit something like this as a condition, that wooded property will never be developed unless we come back before the board and request that change. So these terms are built right into what we're proposing. We have a security apartment also located right here. Because it is remote down a dead-end road, we offer that to the manager of our facility, and if they elect not to take it because they already have a residence here, we offer it to a sheriff's department or police officer looking for an apartment. We cut them a deal, they add to our security, they get somewhere to live. But that's a big thing for the assisted living facility also. Gates, it is gated, and the gates open at 6 to only our paid tenants and stop working at 10, with the exception of some special commercial tenants. If they have a bona fide use, we will give them 24-hour passes. But you're not going to have any traffic in there through the night. Are there any questions from me? I won't drag it out any longer than I have to.
Questions for Mr. Wethington?
I don't have one for Mr. Weddington, but I do have one maybe in unison with David and Mr. Weddington. That's if you go back to the area view.
Now, I don't hear well, so if anybody
Oh.
has a question to me, please.
Holler a little bit.
You got a question?
Yeah,
Mr. Furby's got a question, so you want to walk over here so you can hear him?
well, I guess that may be David more than Mr. Weddington, but I'm looking at property 1302, 1244, and 1224, which look like it intersects the, and that's up at the top portion of the blue line. You see the blue line? 1244, 1224, and 1302. And I know Mr. Weddington said that he had talked with most of them and had sent letters and didn't hear from those, but I was just wondering about those three because it intersects the change.
I know that these two at the very end belong to Mr. Dixon, and then I think the next 4 or 5 belong to Robert Gowan, and I spoke to them. There's one person in here that I didn't speak to. Okay, this one and this one never contacted me after I sent them the letter.
What is that? Do we know what that
I tried
I don't have a
calling.
certificate of mailing with me, but I can provide that to you tomorrow.
And not only that, as required, all of the property owners that are adjacent to and within 100 feet received written correspondence from the city with this plan and explained the planning board meeting and the city council meeting. So we've gone above and beyond our minimum requirements for the
Sure, I
advertisement.
understand that.
And
City
giving
sent it
direct
out, and then
notification.
I sent my own out also, so they got.
And we posted the public meeting and the public hearing at the site with a sign and a pole.
And additionally, too, I want to just mention that the driveway access would not be right there. It would be off of West Becker. That the site right there will have, or the homes that back up on Georgia Avenue would be screened by vegetation. And then there would be their drainage, stormwater detention system, and then any proposed buildings.
Right. I felt good that we had met all the requirements that we usually have. I was just inquiring about those 3 properties because it intersected and didn't know what the conversation was about those. And it sounded like you had talked with 1 or 2 and the others didn't.
I think it was all but 2. I know I talked to Mr. Lloyd.
And one of those were, what's his?
Mr. Dixon, Mr. Lloyd, Mr. Gowan, and Miss Burr. That totals Town Manor. I actually had conversations with or either met those people in person. And no one had any objection to it. And everybody got a letter, but they didn't respond.
Thank you.
My question is, you said that it would be, the whole property would be fenced, right?
The entire property will be fenced, yes, ma'am. It shows shows the fence on your drawing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll clear that up for you if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay.
All of that.
Besides not being able to hear good anyway. Okay. All of these are solid walls between the buildings,
Mm-hmm.
gate here, and then this line with the X's is a fence.
Okay.
So it joins this building right here and then continues out here to surround
The
the
pond.
pond.
Okay.
And that's for protection, say some children
Sure.
back here wander through the woods and stuff.
That was my concern.
It's a liability issue,
Okay.
so that fence is located here on the drawing, and then the fence connects right back here with this building, so she's completely surrounded.
Enclosed,
No,
okay.
and we do that for two reasons. Nobody from here is gonna wander in our facility, and nobody from our facility is gonna wander out here.
Okay. Thank you.
Serves a double purpose.
Thank you so much.
Mayor, I got one question for him.
Yes, sir.
Storm retention pond,
Yes, sir.
are you gonna keep the grass cut in it? Because most of the people in this town do not keep their retention pond grass cut.
We have to. NCDEQ is gonna monitor that one.
Okay.
Uh,
I don't want to have to call our public works director is what I'm saying.
We have gotten a letter before, but we do mow it. But the reason the pond is so big is because there is a tremendous amount of water running down from those two parking lots now, and they're all hitting those houses all along George Avenue. Miss Burr shared with me that she had to dig a swell behind her house to keep the water from coming into her yard, and it's coming into all the yards, everybody that I was able to talk to. So most of you are familiar with NCDEQ, they're going to tell me that I have to make that flow better than what it is now. I have to detain that water to a major storm and release it controlled. And our pond is way over designed to accommodate all that water. And like I told you, to be honest, I need to fill dirt for the site. So, killing two birds with one stone.
Mr. Worthington, I have a question for you. I'm over here.
I'm sorry.
Will the stormwater detention system, will that help improve the properties that are on Jackson Street, Georgia Avenue?
Georgia Avenue, if you go back to that drawing, it goes in that, what was a dedicated street between two of those lots. It's piped into that school system out there. And by the way, that already has been reviewed preliminary by your public works department. We asked for a cursory review before we even proceeded with this, to make sure that would be okay. You see the drawing here, here's the outflow, proposed outflow on the pond, and it runs in this vacant land here between those two lots. It was a dedicated street, but now it'll never be used now, because we're developing the property. I guess originally, there was a street here. It has been deeded to this property now. So presumably, that street could be deeded to those two lots. But our outfall goes through there.
Okay, if nobody else has any questions, thank you for your presentation.
Yes, sir, thank you.
At this time, anyone else that would like to speak on the public hearing can come forward. Say what you'd like to say. If there's no one wishing to speak, I would close the public hearing at this time.
Unless the council has any other questions, just as kind of a reminder here that the current zoning is residential, the requested is a B4, but specific to this particular development. So if approved, then any substantial changes would have to come right back to the council with a public hearing and all that. So there's some guarantees as to what will happen there, which again, a lot of times gives the neighbors a better idea and understanding. And so with the actions that would be requested by council after any deliberation, there's a statement of consistency for compliance with the the comprehensive development plan. So motion and a vote for the statement of consistency, and then also a final decision on the outcome of the matter.
So if the way we're voting now, if this is approved and it's rezoned to B4 for this particular type of business, just for, say in 5 years from now, maybe another business has purchased the property and is looking at putting another type business in there. Under B4, most anything can go in. So would they still have to come back before the council if it was a B4 permitted use
Yes,
and be approved by the council?
it would, as long as it maintains the self-storage facility. If it changes ownership, but physically the development does not change, they won't have to come back. But if they want to change it from a self-storage facility to a gas station, hypothetically, that would have to come back before the council through a public hearing. And what we do in these cases, since this effectively is its own zoning district, because it's a conditional district, what we would do is prepare like what we do with special use permits, but with a conditional district permit, and have it recorded along with the property, so it would run with the property unless something changes in the future.
Okay. No one has any more questions. On page 6, we have the information we need to make a motion on the statement of consistency, if someone glad to do so.
Mr. Mayor, I'll
Yes,
make a motion to approve and adopt the presented statement of consistency to amend the zoning map to a B4 conditional zoning commercial district for Halifax County parcel 0911569 described in the staff report dated October 3rd, 2023.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Stainback and a second by Councilman Smith. Is there any more discussion on the matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion will be approved, and we will move down to the final decision. Motion to approve the amendment.
May I want to, part of my interruption one more time. But there's parentheses in here that say insert the negotiated site-specific conditions here, and as a result, during the public hearing, there have not been any. So the only condition is the application that's described and the site plan. So there's no additional conditions to apply.
So can the motion be recited just as it is presented?
With the exception of the parentheses that discusses site-specific conditions.
Just amend the language in the
With the
parentheses.
exception of or with the addition of?
Just
Exclude it.
omit that language that's in parentheses, so just read it out and go from conditional zoning district, and where there's that semicolon, then go straight into the property is located at West
Okay.
Becker Drive.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve an amendment to the Roanoke Rapids zoning map to change the zoning classification of Halifax County parcel 0911569 to B4 conditional zoning district. The property is located on West Becker Drive as described in the staff report dated October 3rd, 2023.
All right, another motion by Councilman Stainback. Do I hear a second to the motion?
Mr. Mayor, second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Farabee. Any more discussion on the matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion will be approved and the request will be granted. Good evening. Yes, sir.
I'd just like to let y'all know, it's been a pleasure dealing with your planning staff. They have been very professional and responsive when you call and email, very helpful in navigating through the process, because even though you think it's similar in every town, it's a little bit different in every town. And it's been a pleasure. And I just thought y'all needed to know that.
Well, I would like to extend to you and your company, we appreciate the style and the quality of building that you have put on that property. It sat there vacant for a long time. And it certainly, I guess it doesn't provide a whole lot of jobs, but it does create tax revenue, and it looks
Well,
nice on the building.
You'd be surprised at the jobs, you may not be, you've been there, but in the type facility that we run, we like to look at it as like an incubator for businesses. A man that can't afford a road front business, he can come in there and start his business with a secure storage unit where he can put his tools and his equipment or his inventory and come in there and get it out and send his men to go to work that morning until he can afford to rent or buy a storefront business. There's a lot of people that earn a living out of a storage facility when it's done right.
I had some of that in mine also. I can go better than that. I had some living in mine.
Oh,
Okay.
we've had some that we had to move out.
Yes, sir.
And I had to make a decision whether to auction the stuff off that was left in there or rent it as a furnished apartment.
Okay, thank you.
Very much for your time.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Simeon?
Mr. Simeon had to step
Okay, I thought
out
he
for
was
an
here.
emergency.
Who's gonna,
I
is
can-
anybody gonna do the update?
I can go
Okay.
ahead and
Call on Ms. Trainer.
and start on it, and with the potential assistance. A couple months ago, the city heard from community members about the Emery Park tennis courts that have been out of use due to unsafe conditions for several years now. And after the meeting that we had, the proposal was to try to turn it into a skate park, or at least part of it, that could be used for more beginner level skating. Those quotes have come back that have been sought as far as the expense for being able to do that, and for 2 tennis courts, to remove the existing tennis courts, and in that space where 2 of the 6 courts is located, it's about $70,000 to construct the enough concrete and everything to create a skate park facility in that place as a replacement there. And again, it would not take up the whole entire portion of it. It would just be a third of it. The citizen group that we've heard from before, there's some grants and funding opportunities out there, and really the request is really seeking some guidance or a blessing from council to support the project, but then also to in that support we would facilitate with any grant applications. We're not asking the city council for any money right now, but before any fundraising efforts or grant applications can go forward, it's important that we have the council's support for it. With that being said, what I feel like is that this is a type of use that is being requested. There's a huge community support for it, for the beginner skating facility. And then also, as part of it, we have an opportunity to still have plenty of room for any other type of potential recreational uses. But any fundraising would be specific to the conversion to a skate park. And like I said, it still leaves plenty of space for potential for pickleball courts or some of the other recreational amenities that had been discussed during the last meeting as well. Did y'all have?
Anything you got to tell us here?
Okay, all right, this is John. So, I guess since our last meeting, I've talked with quite a few people in the community, and they all seem really on board for it. Emery Park, right now we talked about it, is in disuse, not safe for use, and I've had multiple companies, business owners come to me and say, how much do you need? What do you want? And had a couple churches and a few other folks come forward and say they're really looking forward to help the city, help us out and get it done. So the amount of money I think that we need, we say we need grants, but I don't know if we're going to, the way people have been talking to me. So I think maybe we could maybe raise that in the community, but we'll see. And that's what we're here for. We're just looking for the blessing to move forward with that.
If you don't mind, state your name for the record.
Oh, and I'm Justin Kerr.
Kerr, okay.
Yes, sir. So I think I got you for some money, Mr. Dowdy, back about 25 years ago for my Eagle Scout project. So I've done this fundraising stuff.
About 5 years ago?
25. Yeah, well, yeah. It seems like 5 years ago, but yeah. So, any other questions or anything?
Anybody have any questions, Mr. Kerr? So, is it verbal enough for our support, or do we need to do anything other than what we're doing right now?
I'm not sure what John would have said, but I think if nothing else, your verbal is plenty, unless someone wants to make it in the form of a motion, with the understanding that this is for basically 1/3 of the tennis courts, or former dilapidated tennis courts, so.
And she was just bringing to my attention, the amount of 70,000 is, of course, to refix the fence and do the pour over and get everything started. And that's also getting the lights back going and everything fixed too. So, because I believe Mr. Simeon's idea is to have it lit at night so we can still use it.
Do you know, Ms. Trainum was talking about room for other things. Do you know about how much of the fenced-in area you would need for what you're talking about doing?
She was saying 1/3. We were hoping
third.
maybe half, but you know we're not beggars can't be choosers, so we'll get what we can take. And because I asked Mr. Simeon what was the plan for the other half, and he told me we're gonna figure out something. It's gonna be used for something. We just haven't got to the point of what we're gonna do with that. What the plan for that is.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And I believe that was kind of the conversation that we had last time, that we were all in agreement, except we were looking to see if there were other types of venues that could be used in that same area. For an example, I know you brought up pickleball and some of the other things that may be. So what could be in unison with a skate park or something that?
Well, it's a neighborhood recreational park, or it could serve a lot of different uses, but at this point, we still have a clean slate for any other potential uses, and I don't see where a skate park area would be restrictive or prohibit any other uses with the remaining area of the property. What I foresee this happening is that this is based really on a lot of community input and support, and we would need to look to our recreation plans and really see what the community wants for out there. But right now we don't have, unless we look at other funding for other facilities, recreation facilities, the request right now is for us to focus on just that portion of it that would be used for skating.
Based on your figure of $70,000, that's significantly more than the community raised to get the first skateboard park. I know that was several years ago, but I think if this is just me talking, but if you were able to generate that kind of capital, I would certainly think that based on what happened last time, if money is available, that should certainly increase your chance of getting a grant of some kind. And then also maybe too, if you were to look at something that might benefit, I mean, you're not going to have a lot of people my age out there doing skateboarding probably, but if you were doing something, say the pickleball or the dog court or that type thing, it might make the chance better of getting some additional dollars. I don't know. Okay.
We definitely going to look into that. Like I said, she said we just need y'all's blessing to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, and if you would like to, I guess essentially defer any action on it, if y'all want to maybe share your thoughts, but if you wanted more information when Mr. Simeon gets back to the meeting, you could wait until then too.
Okay. I mean, we don't need to take any action now, you said, do we?
Not necessarily, no.
I guess we have a consensus that we haven't done anything or voted on anything, but at least to allow the project to move forward, if possible. Okay. Just keep us updated.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Rex, okay. 8B is an update from the office of Congressman Don Davis, and we have Miss.
Hey.
Oh, I'm sorry. Miss Medlin. Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council members, for having me this evening, and the public. It's good to see all of you here tonight. I come to you each year and discuss what's going on with the Halifax County Tourism Development Authority, and tonight we're presenting our 2022-2023 report, and we appreciate your time this evening. I'll try to be quick. So the highlight, and you have the report in front of you, also with a special insert for Roanoke Rapids. Y'all hear me okay? The highlight of 2022 was undoubtedly a record-breaking visitor spending number of over $121.75 million. That's money visitors left here in Halifax County, so it's a record-breaking number. Occupancy tax funds for our community increased by 7.4%, and short-term rentals experienced a remarkable surge of over 15.73%. This is a chart showing you how we've been on a steady increase since 2016, except for our horrible year of 2020 that no one wants to remember or talk about. Our visitors spent over $27 million in lodging. They spent over $39 million in food and beverage, over $15.61 on recreation, over $10 million in retail, and over $28 million in transportation. Tourism isn't just about our visitors, it's about our community, and we're proud to have directly and indirectly employed over 1,000 individuals. Total payroll generated by direct employment in the tourism industry is over $29.7 million. State tax revenue generated in Halifax County by visitors was over $5.2 million, and $3.8 million in local taxes were generated from sales and property tax revenue from travel-generated and travel-supported businesses. All good for our economy. All this spending saved each taxpayer in Halifax County over $188 on their tax bill every year. We like to see that number increase. So we are your destination marketing organization for Halifax County and for Roanoke Rapids. And we have a really nice strategy that we try to talk about all of our local communities and everything that Halifax County has to offer. Our organization reached an audience of over 341 million folks in paid and earned media last year. It's a really impressive number. Our preliminary objective is to get people interested in exploring our area and all the treasures that we have to offer here in Halifax County and in Roanoke Rapids. Our focus has been on promoting safe and enriching outdoor adventures. You can see a beautiful shot there of the Canal Trail. And also talking about the charm of our distinctive hometowns that really took center stage this year and is going to take center stage in a big way next year. Building upon our reputation as a pet-friendly destination, we're further amplifying the stories of all our pet-friendly accommodations, and even some of our attractions are pet-friendly, so people are really interested in that. Social media continues to be a big priority for marketing our destination. Being able to share engaging stories with our over 14,000 followers daily is really important in our efforts. You can see some of the stories we've promoted this year. Our top performers are Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, with over 1.7 million impressions and over 92,000 engagements. These numbers are amazing. Billboards speak to our largest audience on I-95. Our permanent and temporary billboards reached over 162 million impressions last year. In addition to co-op opportunities with Visit and See, we work very closely with them and get a lot of great deals on print advertising and all kinds of opportunities. We've been in everything from Our State to USA Today, Go Escape, Reunions Magazine, North Carolina Inland and Fishing and Hunting and Trapping Guide, Travel Taste and Tour. We try to leave no stone unturned in telling our story. We did a new half-page ad in the North Carolina Visitors Guide this year, and that reached over 550,000 readers, and that's a year-round publication. One of our biggest efforts and payback this year was something called a satellite media tour. We worked with Visit NC and had Whit Tuttle, the executive director of Visit NC, and Bruce Tyler, the co-founder of Weldon Mills Distillery, do a media blitz across the nation, talking about wonderful things in Halifax County, in North Carolina, most of them in Halifax County. Our media tour reached over 75 million people, and we had 1,125 airings of this content across the country. We started on the East Coast, worked our way across to the West Coast all in one day. It was really exciting. We want to do that again this year. Partnering with Airbnb and Visit NC, we've had some wonderful social media visits. They've reached an audience of over 1.7 million, and they were very interested in the Canal Trail and did a lot of input on that this year. So I want to thank, most of all, my dedicated team who's here tonight, Rich Lithgow and Susan Wilhelm. We could not go a day without each one of them. It's amazing. We have a very small team, as you can see, doing a lot of work, and they're very much appreciated. I also want to thank my board members. Sandra Bryant's on my board. I see Tony Brown here tonight. Any other board members with us? Our county commissioners appoint our board members, and they always bring innovation and special projects and just wonderful ideas to our board and support us in every way throughout the year. So they're all listed in the annual report for you. So if you see a board member, thank them for all they're doing for Halifax County. Again, we have a lot to be proud of here in Halifax County, and especially in Roanoke Rapids. This is one of my favorite places in Roanoke Rapids. So many wonderful things happen at this school, and so many people come back for reunions of all different kinds here. It's a real, almost a tourist attraction in my opinion. So there's a lot of numbers in there for you. There's a special insert on how we spent the 1% dedicated Roanoke Rapids occupancy tax. So I send that to your city manager every quarter, so she can update you on how things are going and how we're spending that occupancy tax. But more detail in the report, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions of Ms. Medlin?
I don't have any question, but I would like to thank her and the board for the way that you call them, ask them something for sporting events, anything in the city of Roanoke Rapids. You're always welcome, because y'all help us a lot, and I appreciate it.
We believe in the power of sporting events. We'd like to see more here, so we work really closely with you and the Recreation Department, so we're here anytime to support that.
I got a general question. Is tourism back? And what does back mean?
That means we're up over the previous
Yeah.
year. We're growing. Our hotels are really running at a high occupancy and a very high rate. So we have officially recovered. We're a little bit down in employment and being able to fill all the jobs that are needed, and people are doing more with less people. That's the struggle. But as far as the dollars that are coming in and what's being spent here, we have totally recovered. We need more hotel rooms desperately. I want to commend you on your recent actions to grow this industry in a big way in Roanoke Rapids. We need more rooms. We need more places for people to eat. But we're growing with what we have at the moment.
What about the hotel in Weldon?
We are having a meeting on October 9th to get an update on construction. It's going forward. The site work is being done now, and they're still moving forward. I know it looks like it's taking a long time, but they're committed to the process. They have their funding in place, and we'll get a construction update on October 9th. I'd be happy to send that to your city manager so you'll have a direct answer to that
Okay,
question.
thank you. Thank you for your report.
Thank you all.
Now, 8B is an update from the office of Congressman Don Davis, and for that I call on the District Director, Kimberly Mack. Good evening, Ms. Mack.
You guys cold. You cold. It just cut off.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Yes, ma'am, good evening.
It is a pleasure to be with you all tonight in Roanoke Rapids. And I'm coming before you to be able to give you a brief congressional update on what we have been up to. And as you know, Roanoke Rapids is part of Halifax County, so you all are a part of the 19 counties that we serve. And, and we're happy to be here tonight. The congressional office is nonpartisan. We do provide a number of services to our constituents. So I first want to just be able to share some of the things that we do, because not everybody always know everything the congressional office does. And the number one thing I wanted to talk about is our casework. Each congressional district or each congressional office has a designated casework team that acts as a liaison between the constituents of the district and federal agencies to work through whatever issues they are facing. And we are a neutral third party in the process. Caseworkers cannot advocate or change a particular outcome or decision. And some wait periods have been as long as 60 to 90 days. But federal agencies are required to respond to our inquiries. So I wanted to be able to share that. In terms of what casework looks like coming out of Halifax County, the numbers are not very high. Sometimes we may have anywhere from maybe 5 to 7 cases a month that may come from Halifax County. And some of the success stories maybe is just, we just found out today that one of our towns received a $300,000 grant to be able to restore or remodel their police department, or being able to save a family, deceased loved one who was a veteran, $34K in their military benefits. Or we just have been working with a town and we were able to save them from a $100,000 penalty. So we are here not only to just work with the individual constituents, but we also are here to work with cities and towns any way, of course, that we can. We also are out in the community. We're meeting with local governments, county governments. We're meeting with nonprofit agencies, educational entities. We've been here actually to the city of Roanoke Rapids, and we met with Kelly very early in the term. So wanted to be able to share that as well. And let me back up a bit. District-wide, we have closed about 500 constituent cases for casework. So I wanted to also share that number as well. In addition to that, I also wanted to share that we have congressional opportunities or educational opportunities for youth. Students who live and attend school in the 1st Congressional District are able to participate in a variety of opportunities. One opportunity is the Congressional Art Competition that usually takes place in the spring of the year. First place winner has their artwork at the Rotunda in Washington, D.C. Second place winner, their artwork is displayed in the Congressional office in D.C. And third place winner, their artwork is displayed in our district office. Now, I will say that we didn't have any art from Halifax County, and I know we got artists here within these school systems. So I asked you to, as we're sending out information and we're sharing information, please encourage your youth here to participate in those opportunities. They're really great opportunities. In addition to that, we have our app challenge going on. That's for middle and high school students. And those students who participate, their deadline is November. We also have the Service Academy nominations that go forth as well. And those, the closing on that has not been finalized, but if you know of anyone interested, please reach out to me. Please contact our office so that we can make sure that they follow the necessary steps to be able to get included into the portal. We are working with a committee that is going to help or give a recommendation to the congressman for those final selections. So, and in addition to that, we also have internship opportunities for our district office as well as our DC office. And our first intern in district office actually was from Edgecombe County. So wanted to share that information as well. If you know of any college students that may have an interest in serving as an intern in our office. In addition to that, we also have commendations and greetings, and we do quite a bit of those. They can be anything from celebrating special milestones to letters of condolences, to participating and being on a program for special events. We have done a lot of those. Last month, we've done over 100 of those. So we are, as people are making the requests, we are participating in those, as well as we have the flat requests that people may ask for, and we're able to assist with that as well. And that more information can be found out online for flat requests, but you can also reach out to us as well in our office. And then, of course, federal grant assistance. So many people are asking us about funding, how can they obtain funding, letters of support, and so we're here for our constituents in that way as well. And then lastly, of course, the constituent representation in Congress, and that's Congressman Davis representing our congressional district. We also have direct constituent contact. So these are our town halls, our telephone town hall. Our telephone town hall had over 8,000 people on it. Listening sessions, roundtables, tours, newsletters, text and call messages as well, virtual seminars, and community outreach and service as well. And we have been to Roanoke Rapids actually quite a bit because earlier here, you see this is a picture where we were at the hospital. And then last month, we visited NC Works, the sanitary district, and Supercut Barbershop here in Roanoke Rapids. So we're moving around, and we've particularly been here in Roanoke Rapids as well. Want to also just share some legislative updates. Congressman Davis is the vice-ranking member of the House Agriculture Committee, vice-ranking member on the House Armed Services Subcommittee on Readiness. Introduced 8 pieces of legislation, 6 of which were bipartisan, co-sponsored over 150 pieces of legislation, more than 100 are bipartisan, and co-led 21 pieces of legislation. One of the most bipartisan freshmen in the House, with 85% bipartisan record on co-sponsorships, a Democratic co-chair of the Bipartisan Agriculture Labor Working Group, and member of the House Armed Services Committee Quality of Life Panel. Now, if you've been watching the news, which I'm sure many of you have, there's been a lot happening in D.C. And so I wanted to first share the short-term spending bill and just an update that Congressman Davis voted to continue to fund the government for 45 days and prevent the government shutdown. The legislation includes $16 billion in disaster relief and delivers the resources necessary to keep essential government services running. A government shutdown would directly impact, for the 1st Congressional District, over actually 6,700 federal workers, 46,000 veterans, and 174,000 seniors in North Carolina's 1st Congressional District who rely on life-saving government services. And then also want to share with you, because there was some happenings on the House floor between me coming from Greenville to here. And so I wanted to just be able to share the statement from Congressman Davis, his statement on motion to vacate the Speaker. Residents of North Carolina's 1st Congressional District elected me to work with Democrats and Republicans to tackle our family's most challenging issues. The 118th Congress began with 15 rounds of votes before successfully selecting a Speaker, which was my first exposure to serving in Congress. Today's motion to vacate is no surprise. It is simply a continuation of our first few days in office. People are tired of the division and the chaos and desire a government that prioritizes them. Because the status quo does not reflect the value of service, he cast a bipartisan vote to vacate the Speaker. My vote will be in support of the Speaker regardless of any individual or party, committed to stabilizing the American government by putting people in our congressional duties, not politics, front and center. Eastern North Carolina and the American people deserve nothing less. So as we're talking about an appropriations update, the city of Roanoke Rapids was not awarded. However, the county was in his recommendations to move forward with a body scanner. And then there was another nonprofit here. But with the current state right now in D.C., it's expected that the only action on the floor for the remainder of this week, and hopefully we'll see that we'll have a new speaker, is to vote for a new speaker of the House. I also want to share, and what we call the full circle, is how when the congressmen and the congressional staff, we're out in the community and we're meeting remarkable people. And when we're meeting the people, and he'll go back and he'll have a congressional speech made from the floor, and then we'll submit on social media, on his platform, on his websites, and then we'll also come back to the community and we'll present a congressional record where this constituent's name and history, is etched in official record. And so if you know of outstanding individuals that are doing remarkable things, please share that information with us, because we would love to honor them in some kind of way. And these are just the tags on social media with Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And another way that you can also connect to the congressional office is also through our website. And the last question, that I wanted to ask was, how can we help? So if there's something that you need from us, if there's something that we can do to help you in any kind of way, even if it's a thought where you're wondering about funding or whatever it may be, we are here to support you. And we will do everything that we can to help you. And I also ask as well, if you know of constituents that would benefit from our casework, please have them reach out to us as well, because that's what we're here for. We're here to serve everyone, and we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the people. Any questions for me?
No question. So if we have a project, and I know our people know about grants and that type thing, we can just call your office and say, here's what we want to do. This is how much it's going to cost. Can you give us some entities or some direction as to where we might seek funding? That type thing.
Yes, we can do that. And also, you have community project funding, but again, we don't know what the rules may be around for the next Congress, not next Congress, but for the next year. So for those, we don't know. But if you have a project that you're interested in, yes, we can comb our through congressional research and look to see what kind of grant opportunities may be available for whatever your project may be, and we can get back to you on it. And we can also write letters of support as well if there's somebody from that agency that you need to speak with to help with that process and move things along. We can facilitate that as well.
If there are no other questions, I thank you for
Thank you.
coming and sharing with us.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you
thank
very
you.
much.
Item C is consideration of the revised mutual assistance agreement with the Halifax Regional Drug Task Force. I call on our police chief, Chief Guy Ant, make the presentation.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor. August 15th, 2023, the council voted to allow the mutual aid agreement between the Sheriff's Office and the Police Department in the formation of the Halifax County Regional Drug Task Force. Sheriff Davis and I had a lot of conversations with some really smarter than we are people, which is a lot of those, but they had advised that it would probably be a great idea that we're forming a task force, which is a combination of both of our efforts, that we maybe should revise our MOU to include some language about gangs. And the reason why this is because there's funding that has been available in the past. Of course, there's no funding at the present moment because the federal government doesn't have a budget, but most of the funding comes from the Office of Justice Programs or the Bureau of Justice Assistance and other youth crime programs that have come forward from the federal and the state agencies, especially under the burn grants that come around the 1st of January. And a lot of these particular grants are tied into criminal activity involving gangs and drugs and working together. So in Halifax County, there's around about 30 different types of gangs that have been identified in past validation efforts, and you're looking at about 500 plus or minus gang members in our area. Most of the individuals that are considered to be gang members are those that are committing the violent crimes like these robberies, these homicides and things like that. So what we wanted to do is to present this mutual aid agreement again with a couple of additions. And if you look at the task force mutual aid that's attached on page 1, we wanted to include the sentence of ensuring that gang affiliation is validated to identify if criminal narcotics violations could be considered as enhancements during state or federal prosecutions. The affiliation of a gang member is not just saying, oh, he's in a gang. It's actually a validation process where we have to work through to make sure that this person maybe has some gang tattoos, has some gang literature, has some gang things that we have found in our search warrants or in some kind of social media, that looking at this person to validate them as a gang member. If we do validate them as a gang member, especially in a narcotics trafficking case, then that person could have federal enhancements attached to their punishment if they go to federal court. So that's why that particular sentence is in that first paragraph there. If you were to look at page 2 at the very top sentence, that we added organized gang and criminal organizations operating within Halifax County. That just goes along again to not just talk about this being a task force that is specifically targeting narcotics traffickers and narcotics dealers for the most part, but also their affiliation with gangs, because in the criminal world, a lot of times these things go hand in hand. So it's important that we wanted to include that language as well. If we go on over to page 7, which is the crux of why we really wanted to make this addendum here, this change here, is the very last added section, which says supplemental funding to agencies through grants. Any grants applied for pursuant to any future funding opportunities related to gang and criminal organizations will be mutually applied for and made available exclusively for the task force. Sheriff Davis and I have had a long conversation about my history of writing grants and how we could combine our efforts as a sheriff's office and a police department, especially using the task force as the vehicle to get us there, so we could apply for mutual grants with the city and the county together to kind of tackle those particular problems. Now, in the past, there have been several grants that have been available to cities and counties and jurisdictions fighting the elements of gang affiliation with narcotics trafficking. They do go hand in hand. And we're talking about gangs related to, the Mexican cartels, different types of other gangs that are affiliated that we're all familiar with, the Bloods, the Crips, and things like that. But there's so many different types than just those particular gangs. We have so many different types of organized crime units that are flowing around here. We have MS-13, which is an El Salvadorian gang that is present in North Carolina. We haven't seen them in Halifax, but we know they're present. But we are definitely seeing very remnants of Mexican cartels here in the city and in the county. Very, very strong remnants of that here lately. You might have remembered of a particular instance. We did a search warrant on 12th Street, which was publicly made available here recently. That's cartel related. So we wanted to make sure that we brought this back in here for the council to review. It has not been brought to the county yet by Sheriff Davis to make that change. It was stopped so we could add this on our end, and then he could push forward further. But what we're really trying to do is to propose a mutual aid agreement that is to foster interagency cooperation in the enforcement of the North Carolina Controlled Substance Act by formulating the guidelines in which the task force will operate, and we're including the language of gang and gang affiliation and gang validation. That will definitely help us out as far as funding goes down the road, and having that in our mutual aid agreement, having that present there will actually help us down the road when funds do become available. We can apply for these funds. We can show we have this mutual consortium to working together to try to fight this element. So the main focus of the task force is to continue to target and dismantle major narcotics traffickers and criminal organizations operating within Halifax County, North Carolina. So that is I'm open for any questions that you may have on that, but this is just a revision of an agreement you've already agreed upon on August the 15th, with just the addition of some language about gangs and criminal organizations.
And Mr. Mayor, if I can kind of tie into that.
Mr. Davis?
I've reviewed both agreements, and when Chief Guyant brought the new information and said, hey, in conversations with the sheriff's office, we think that we can qualify for some more money if we add this language to it. And he went through the changes. They're very minor in the change to this. I don't think that it expands the scope of the enforcement by any I would say any kind of substantial or material degree. But it does make the city potentially eligible for more funding and for the grants. And so I've reviewed both agreements, and I have no legal concerns with those changes.
Anybody else have any questions, Chief? I appreciate your efforts very much, you and Sheriff Davis, and it's just hard, and I think the people sitting in the audience tonight, I would bet to say that they probably learned something about things that you're saying about our community, because, we see things like that on television or on our computer or on our phone, but we just can't seem to bring ourselves to realize that those things are right here amongst us.
It's
And
in our
that's-
backyard.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So we would need a motion to approve that.
Let me get to my point.
There's a need for a motion.
Yeah, we need a motion to,
I would like to make a motion that we approve the changes that was made to the agreement.
okay, we have a motion by Councilman Farabee. Do we have a second to his motion? Second by Councilwoman Bryant. Any more discussion? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion will be approved. Okay. The next item on the agenda, 8D, is for the council tonight to consider an appointment to District 1 for the city council for the vacancy that was created when Mr. Daughtry stepped down. What the council had decided to do earlier in a previous meeting was to make it known that each individual that was interested in being an applicant for this position to send in an application, in which you all have those in your packet, and each applicant would come forward. I think the clerk told me that she put them in our packet the way they were received. You would have up to 5 minutes. You don't have to talk 5 minutes, but you have up to 5 minutes to make your presentation. It was also recommended that the council refrain from getting into conversation and questioning the applicants while they were making or when they finished their presentation. After we have heard from all of the applicants at that time, we would have a nomination, and then there would be a vote to approve the appointment to the council. Ms. Mills, you were the first applicant, so we would call on you to come forward. And if you would, again, state your name and good afternoon.
Good evening. Mayor, council members, city employees, and attendees. I'm Sherry Mills. I reside at 515 Arbutus Drive West in Roanoke Rapids. I am a native of Roanoke Rapids and a graduate of Roanoke Rapids High School. Growing up in Roanoke Rapids was wonderful for me, filled with many memories of a wholesome upbringing and a prosperous time in our community's history. I moved away, as many do, and through hard work and perseverance, I built a successful career in interior design. I owned and operated interior design companies in Georgia and Florida. My Georgia company was nationally recognized for outstanding achievements. Owning a business provided experience in planning a budget, making payroll, managing employees, marketing a business, adjusting to challenges, and surviving. When I moved back home to be near family about 20 years ago, I was saddened by the decline I saw in our little corner of the world. Seeing the change made me want to do what I could to help our city improve, and thus started my volunteer work that has continued to today. Shortly after moving home, I was asked by Mayor Bill to serve on the city's beautification committee, which led to working with merchants on the avenue. After attending a workshop to determine if we qualified to apply for the Main Street program, our group felt that it would be wonderful for Roanoke Rapids, but didn't see how we could make it work. And I said, you can eat an elephant if you just take one bite at the time. You see, I believe we can accomplish almost anything when broken down into manageable strategies. I co-authored the grant that ultimately resulted in Roanoke Rapids being awarded the Main Street designation. The program, as you know, is designed to provide tools for success and eligibility for grant dollars that we would not qualify for otherwise. Our Main Street program has brought hundreds of thousands of dollars to our city for improvements to what is considered the soul of our community. It's been hard at times, but worthwhile. When I walk through the 1026 area, I'm filled with pride as I look around and I remember what it was like in 2009 when we received our designation. The upper floor had caved in from a leaky roof, the building was ultimately condemned, and now it is a shining jewel for our city, and it's used by many on a regular basis. I sometimes wonder what our Avenue District would look like had we not been working our program for the last 14 years and our partnership with the city. I served on the Halifax County Arts Council Board and was president during its most profitable period. During my tenure, we identified funding to secure a mural for each municipality in Halifax County. Each is unique and specific to that area of our county's history, and most have been painted by our beloved Napoleon Hill. We brought the North Carolina Symphony to the Roanoke Rapids Theater, the only time they have performed there, and it was filled to capacity during a time when attendance was low. I attended Golden Leaf meetings to help secure potential funding for our city. One of the requirements was attending the meetings that ultimately lasted over a year, just to have input as to how the dollars would be spent in our county. I was determined that Roanoke Rapids, specifically Main Street, received its share. In 2013, I had the pleasure of working on the last revision of our land use ordinance that is still in place today. I have served 10 years on the city's planning board and board of adjustment and currently serve as its chair. Because of my volunteer work, I have worked with many of our community leaders and developed good relationships with economic development and tourism, and have worked alongside many of our city's employees. I could go on with my projects and experience, since returning home, but I want to tell you why I want to serve our community on our city council. District 1 represents 38% of all registered voters in the city of Roanoke Rapids. As a citizen, I am hopeful for a strong and dedicated leader to represent our citizens, the city, and the community. I would like to build a shared vision for the future of Roanoke Rapids, working alongside our city's leaders. This position will allow for a platform of positive ideas for change and growth while providing quality services to our citizens. I feel we're at a very important time in our city's history, with the sale of the theater lifting the city's burden of much of its debt. We can now look at opportunities with a fresh vision and a new perspective. I am grateful to each of you for your efforts in selling the theater and applaud your recent decision to contribute to an engineering report for the future development along Premier Boulevard's extension and the Highway 125 corridor. I have considered several times in the past to run for City Council in District 1, but at each point the timing was not right for me or my family. I wanted to wait until I had the time to give what is necessary to serve the citizens of District 1 and our city. I expressed my interest in filling the vacancy during the last two appointments and personally called each one of you. I also considered running for the seat when Ms. Scarborough was last reelected. I would have talked with her had I known how ill she was. You see, she was my mother's neighbor.
Ms. Beal, I don't mean to cut you off, but you're getting pretty
just
close.
a couple more seconds. She was my mother's neighbor and longtime friend. I simply could not run against her. It did not seem morally right to me. In closing, I have served our committee, our community in many capacities over the past 20 years, and I believe I am well suited to represent District 1 because of my relevant skills, experience, service to, and passion for our community. I'm excited about this opportunity as it aligns perfectly with my experience and skill set. I remain passionate about working hard towards the overall good for our city. I believe in Roanoke Rapids and remain willing to do my part in helping us move forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And I know you have worked really hard in a lot of different things that you've done for our community, and for that, we thank you. Mr. Strickland. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for this opportunity. I'd just like to say, I'm going to be brief about it. I'm a lifelong resident of Roanoke Rapids. I've been here 61 years. Businessman in the town for 44 years. And I do live in District 1, 535 Virginia Street. I think what I could bring to the council is my business experience. I deal on a daily basis with anything from human resources to payroll to operations to marketing, sales. I mean, we do, we're a small outfit. We do a little bit of all of it. And I feel like that experience can help, I can be an asset to the council, promote growth and economic development in Roanoke Rapids. My grandfather served on this council over 50 years ago, and that excites me to give a chance to give back to the community what's been given to me. And I appreciate your consideration.
All right. Thank you, sir. Next is Mr. Dean.
Thank you, Mr.
Hello,
Mayor.
Mr. Dean.
Members of the council. My name's Jacob Dean. I live at 1017 Rapids Street, and I try to be brief tonight. 3 years ago, I was elected the vice chair of a local political committee. I've also, the same year, I actually started and a multi-county political committee of both Halifax and Northampton counties. And also in 2020, I was able to work for a presidential campaign that year. I worked for Senate campaigns, House campaigns, state and local campaigns. And due to my political activism, I've been allowed the privilege of knocking nearly 20,000 doors right here in Roanoke Rapids over the last 3 years. And so I believe that gives me insight into what the citizens of Roanoke Rapids want, need, and their concerns. And actually, I believe I'm the only candidate for the appointment that's actually already running for the city council. I filed in the first day of filing this year to run in this election this year. And I believe that my age actually, I'm 21, so I am eligible to be on the council, but I believe my age actually helps me. At a meeting a couple weeks ago, we talked about how a large portion of the people graduating from high school here are leaving and never coming back. Well, who better to help curb that than someone who is around their age and knows the struggles and the issues that they care about, and the reasons they don't want to come back. And so I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dean. And Mr. Brown? Good evening.
Looks familiar. Thank you. First of all, thank you all for going through this process, and thank you, City Council and Mayor, for what all you do, as well as staff. I've been there, done that, and got the T-shirt. So that's my pitch. I've been in local government for 30 years. I retired with 30 years of local government experience. 25 with Halifax County, and the rest has been with Orange County and also with the city of Wilmington. So I've actually worked in city government as well. And I think what I'm looking to present to everyone is I've been here 25 years, actually 26 years, and I've grown to love the city of Roanoke Rapids. My father was in the Marines, and we moved around a lot. I've never lived in the same place more than 5 years. So Roanoke Rapids is home for me because I've been here 25 years, 5 times the amount of any place I've ever lived. And I think having that diverse experience from working and living in other places brings me unique insight, as well as my background being the retired Halifax County manager. With Halifax County, I worked 25 years, started as the HR director, worked 5 years as deputy county manager, and then the last 15, which was, believe it or not, that was my longest job I've ever held, 15 of the last years as county manager. I have a knowledge of local government, both county and city, and I think that would benefit Roanoke Rapids with regards to what I can do to help. I can hit the ground running. I know Don Davis. I know Michael Ray. I know other folks in this in the legislature, General Assembly. I know folks in Raleigh. I actually knew Congressman Butterfield. I work with the league as well. One of the committees that I'm on is the local government retirement system. As part of that, I interact with even the league very often, as well as the County Commissioners Association. So that's really what I wanted to put out there. I'm an Air Force veteran. I spent 5 years on active duty and 6 years in the reserves. Some of what I've heard as to what would be a challenge for me to be in this position is, I guess, my allegiance. I can guarantee to you I can commit to the city of Roanoke Rapids more so than I did for the county of Halifax. Why? Because I have that commitment to getting things done. I did a budget for 15 years as county manager. I did 5 years before that as a support person as deputy county manager. So I know the ins and outs and the workings of a local government. So I want to bring that experience to Roanoke Rapids so we can move forward. That's part of, I guess, my vision is making Roanoke Rapids one of the elite cities in the state of North Carolina. We're poised right now, especially with the theater sale, to move forward and make some positive things here in Roanoke Rapids. I'd like to be a part of that. I'd like to contribute to that. I think I have the skills to actually do that. So I would like that consideration. So one thing, and I'm going to put it out there as well, because that's the kind of the white elephant in the room, and I've had conversations about this. Some people are question what happened with the 911 center and the budget process for that. Let me be clear with that process. I'm Kelly's counterpart. You all make the decision, not Kelly. I was the county manager. I provided information to the county commissioners. They made the decision. I gave them 4 or 5 different options, and that's how it was decided. So I'm not responsible for the issue that's going on with the city and between the county. I was just a person. I'm a staff person. I was just the lead staff person in the county. So I just want to make sure that's clear to everyone, because that's been asked of me, and I've explained that to folks as I've talked to them. My background, undergrad degrees in social work. Master's work is in human resources. I'm a people person. Part of the positive, part of my success, I should say, has been being able to communicate well with people, engaging people, and having empathy. That's part of the job, and understanding what someone needs as a citizen. Not of Roanoke Rapids, and the entire region, because that's part of what we do. We're part of a larger entity for the state of North Carolina. So, that being said, and my allegiance will be with Roanoke Rapids. It is not with Halifax County. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. We're on the same team, but probably not anymore. But I can guarantee you I will give the same diligence and allegiance and support to the city of Roanoke Rapids as I did for the county. And I thank you for the opportunity, and I ask for your vote.
All right.
Thank you very
sir.
much.
Thank you. So before I move forward, make sure I'm moving forward correctly. It is at this time, we would ask for nominations for the appointment. A motion?
No, this, I mean, council can discuss the various nominees if they wish to, but I think the proper procedure at this point would be for a motion and vote. That is, someone makes a motion and says, I move that we appoint person X to the vacant council seat. If that gets a second, then there's a vote, and then it kind of proceeds from there as a normal vote.
Anybody else have any questions before we move to that process?
No questions. I'm just happy that we did go through this process, and the way we went through this process, we have filled other vacancies in the past, and in many cases, some of us didn't know the actual candidate. So I am very glad, and hopefully that we will continue the process that we have now in how we fill vacancies. We get a chance to hear from the candidates and can at least get to know all of the candidates. Sometimes, and a lot of times, we know one or two of them, or most of them. In this case, most of us know all of them, but in some cases we don't. So, with that being said, Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to appoint Tony Brown to the vacant seat of City Council.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Farabee to appoint Tony Brown. We have a second by Councilwoman Bryant on that motion. Is there any more discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. I vote in the negative, so that motion would be defeated. Do I hear any other motions?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we can consider Kurt Strickland to fill District 1 council seat.
We have a motion by Councilman Smith. Do I hear a second to his motion?
I second that, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Councilman Steinbach. Any more discussion on the matter? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
No.
It's a 2-2 vote again. It's a tie. I would vote in favor of Mr. Strickland, so the motion would be passed. Congratulations, Mr. Strickland.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to say that of all the candidates, I believe we have all good candidates that have come before us tonight. And I'm glad that we have the process that we have and can get to hear from the candidates. Thank you.
And Mayor, I would like to echo those sentiments as well. I'm really happy that we do have people that are interested in serving. And I think this process was definitely worthwhile. It's at least good to be able to put a name with a face, even if you don't know them personally. And I agree that we probably should consider following this process if we have openings in the future. And thank you all candidates for your interest.
I echo that.
Yes. All right, Ms. Trainum, do you have a report?
I promise to be brief. I realize I'm in between you and dinner. I just wanted to report on a couple items. First, last night, attended the American Legion First Responders Awards and dinner, along with Chief Patrick and Chief Guyant. We had two city employees that were recognized by the Shaw May Post 38, our local American Legion chapter. Retired Deputy Fire Chief Wes Hucks was honored as Firefighter of the Year. And in the police department, Captain Jeff Baggett was recognized as Police Officer of the Year. And the members of the local chapter of the American Legion have unanimously agreed to move those two that were recognized last night to the state level as well. We have a lot of great employees that give and so forth, and it's important that they are recognized, and we thank the American Legion for their efforts in that. Tomorrow morning is Wednesday, and tomorrow is National Coffee with a Cop Day. So at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning at Hardee's on Juliana Allsbrook, we encourage those interested to come out and have coffee with our local police officers and just talk about whatever you'd like to talk about. This weekend on Saturday, October 7th, the Police Club will be having their annual cornhole tournament, which was one of their big fundraisers for Christmas for Kids. And they have a lot of really good door prizes too, so contact the police department for any information about that. The tournament will be held at TJ Davis Recreation Center. We are officially in the month of October, which is Fire Prevention Month, so our fire department is busy with presentations in our local community schools and other facilities or group gatherings as well to share the importance of fire prevention. Also next week on Monday, October the 9th, the city offices will be closed in observance of Columbus Day. On Tuesday, our mayor has a birthday, as I understand. And then on Thursday the 12th, in the morning from 9 to 11 at City Hall in Human Resources, there will be a flu shot clinic, and also the Senior Expo at Kirkwood will be held on Thursday the 12th from 9 until 2 o'clock. Subject to your questions, that concludes my report.
We got anything else on the agenda? Any other business that needs to come before the council tonight? If there is none, call for a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, before we do, I'm just glad that, again, that we see so many people that have come out tonight and again, the interest in our city, because sometimes, as you well know, we don't have anybody to come up. And so, again, thank you. Glad to see my friend Vernon Bryant here tonight as well. So, again, thank you all for coming and having interest in our city.
Mr. Mayor, if Ms. Lewis don't mind telling the council what she told me a while ago, do you mind doing that? I would like for her to tell the council what she told me.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes, I'm Jenny Lewis, I'm the president of the Roanoke Valley Chamber of Commerce. We were asked if we would support the resolution regarding the casino entertainment district. So this is for our board members, and we will be submitting a letter of support for that resolution. So I will be working on that and hopefully have that to you the first.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to hear second.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.